It may be a taste of things to come as Hurricane Matthew intensifies. Jamaica's capital, Kingston, is already getting soaked, with floods causing chaos in low-lying areas. The storm is expected to reach Jamaica and southwestern Haiti Monday night, and it's moving slowly, giving it time to do lots of damage. Matthew is the most powerful storm to hit Jamaica since Hurricane Gilbert in 1988. Those in Matthew's path have been boarding up windows as they prepare for winds of up to 130 miles per hour. Matthew is expected to drench Jamaica with up to 25 inches of rain and Haiti with 40 inches. Residents in many low-lying areas have been evacuated. Those in other areas are stocking up on canned goods, water, and other supplies as they pass the final hours before the storm's arrival.
Hurricane Matthew is bearing down on Haiti with life-threatening rains and winds that could wreak havoc on the Caribbean nation. The National Hurricane Center said the storm is expected to make landfall late on Monday. An evacuation order is in effect, but in at least one coastal town, about 2,000 people have refused to leave. We're already living in misery, this man said. If the hurricane comes, our situation will get even worse. A combination of weak government and poor infrastructure makes Haiti vulnerable to disasters. Still, many people are reluctant to leave their homes for fear of their belongings getting stolen. Emergency workers say now they're just trying to teach people how to hunker down for the storm.
We have a hurricane, the strongest hurricane that has been in the Atlantic Basin in close to 10 years. This is Hurricane Matthew, Category 4 storm, 130-mile-per-hour sustained winds. Very concerned for Haiti this morning as we think this is going to make a direct impact on Haiti. 70% of the region is below poverty. People are still living in tents from the earthquake in 2010. So not only Haiti, but Jamaica and the Bahamas. And then what happens next? Here is the track. We think perhaps a very close call across the East Coast, the eastern seaboard. We need to watch this very carefully.
The Category 4 storm becoming the strongest in the region since 2007. Forecasters warning some areas could see 40 inches of rain, 40 inches, causing concerns about mudslides and widespread flooding.
It is a real life-threatening storm, and already Jamaica and Haiti getting pounded hard. Heavy flooding in Jamaica and Haiti, especially the western tip of the island, could get the worst of it.
Hurricane Matthew's strong winds and heavy rain being felt in Jamaica. A foot of water already on some of the roads, flooding the streets and creating damage. Police are telling people to take the warning seriously and evacuate. However, many are not.
And nobody can make me move. Wait, what are you protecting? If it's your home, you can beat back one. But you cannot get back your life. Once you're dead, you're dead.
Meanwhile, in Haiti, where the storm is expected to be devastating, preparations are being made in the rain. The extremely dangerous hurricane expected to impact the Caribbean, also forcing flights to Jamaica, parts of Cuba, and Haiti to be canceled.
140 miles per hour, 140 mile-per-hour winds right in that eye wall there of Hurricane Matthew. A major storm about to make landfall in about 24 hours or so. Millions of people at risk here in the Caribbean from a catastrophic hurricane. Storm surge, wind, rain 30 inches, significant loss of life, I think, here in the Caribbean as Matthew comes up across Haiti and into Cuba. But here's where we are right now. Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about a storm that may impact the U.S. East Coast, all the way from northern Florida, maybe all the way up as far north, or as far south for that matter, as Florida. So this is not out of the woods yet. We are not out of the woods as U.S. citizens here, as this storm continues to be a major significant hurricane as we work our way into the end of the week. So where do we go from here? We start to see the storm roll through the Caribbean. This is the spaghetti models. We talk about how the models are all different. Very few hit the U.S. except the U.K. model very close, and that's what we always call it the European model. And then the GFS, the American model, slightly farther offshore. But look how close. We cannot take our eye off the ball here, because this is going to be a storm with a slight left turn with a major impact on the U.S. Regardless, Allison, the waves and the swells could be 12 to 15 feet crashing on shore from Florida to the Carolinas, even with a miss. And that could cause loss of life if you get in that water. It will be a dangerous week on the East Coast.
A fast-moving wildfire in the small mountain community of Beulah, southwest of Pueblo, has scorched nearly 4 square miles and destroyed at least 7 structures. Pueblo County Sheriff's officials say the fire is moving southeast and is burning on both sides of Colorado Highway 78. About 60 people have been forced out of the area, and people in Beulah have been told to prepare to leave if necessary. No injuries have been reported.
70,000 North Koreans are still homeless after widespread flooding. Now, the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, or IFRC, is warning winter could make things worse. Temperatures in the province of North Hamgyong drop well below freezing.
This is seriously harsh conditions, and that's why we need much more permanent solutions in terms of shelter, in terms of the health services and access to food, and sorting out issues around safe water. These are really fundamental and important issues right now that the communities need.
The IFRC says respiratory and other infections are growing, and it's only been able to reach 30,000 of the more than 500,000 people it says are in need.
In a full-page ad over the weekend, a Mosaic executive penned a letter to Tampa Bay, letting everyone know its efforts to catch contaminated water are working as planned. But it's this line right here that may turn some heads, suggesting sinkholes like this toxic one are completely natural. In other words, the company and all the work that goes on here had nothing to do with it.
It certainly is possible.
We went and asked the guy who literally wrote the book on Florida sinkholes, Dr. Robert Brinkman.
We need proof to assess what actually caused this thing to form.
Brinkman is a former professor at USF. He now works at Hofstra University in New York. He has studied the issue extensively to help the public understand the ground we are walking on.
Most will agree that sinkholes in Florida are a naturally occurring phenomenon. They can open without any warning and in rare cases even turn tragic like this one here in Sefner. But there are exceptions.
There are examples of cases where adding weight on top of a sinkhole-prone area induced a sinkhole.
In this case, the sinkhole at Mosaic opened up under a 215 million gallon pond of toxic waste used to make fertilizer. Roughly speaking, that's the size of 325 Olympic swimming pools and about as heavy as 2.5 Empire State Buildings. 1 year ago, even the EPA warned Mosaic of potential sinkholes, ordering them to drain some of the ponds in case it ever happened. It's too late now.
Storing acidic mine waste in a sinkhole-prone area is problematic.
To understand why, just talk to the hundreds around Mosaic losing sleep about the quality of their well water.
A research team from Japan's Kyoto University has announced a new method which could predict earthquakes with magnitude greater than 7 between 20 and 60 minutes before they strike. Based on data from global navigation satellite systems, the group has analyzed several cases of ionospheric anomalies above the seismic focus before an earthquake. And they found ionospheric disturbances increased before several earthquakes struck. Although the new system needs to be fully tested, the group hopes that they can better predict earthquakes through ionospheric disturbances.
Police in Greece fired tear gas at pensioners who took to the streets of Athens to protest over cuts to their benefits, which come as part of an austerity drive dictated by international lenders. Riot police blocked the path of about 1,500 pensioners who were attempting to march to the office of Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras. Greece has been dealing with the impact of persistent austerity measures over the past 7 years, dictated by creditors as a remedy for years of financial mismanagement. Pensioners have been particularly hard hit, with many benefits cut as taxes have spiked.
You got a message for the government, then?
We're coming for you. We're fucking coming for you, bruh.
people waking up.
Is everything under control? Yeah. Is everything under control?
Everything's hunky-dory.
Oh shit! Wolf 'em!
They're protesting in Brussels against a proposed law in Poland, a law that would impose a total ban on abortion.
We consider it torture, and we consider it that it's a barbaric law from medieval, and we don't accept it to be like that. That's why we came here today to demonstrate against it.
The current law in Poland allows abortion only in the case of rape, incest, threat to the mother's health, or when the baby is likely to be permanently handicapped. It's already strict, but a total ban, say these women, is a step too far, and they're coming out in solidarity with a national women's strike in Poland. The world is watching us, says this woman. This is a violation of civil rights. The bill has been introduced by an independent group. It's not known how much support it has among lawmakers, but women's groups across the continent are making it clear they'll fight it all the way.
Still going on?
Tonight, a new warning that Kim Jong-un may try to provoke the U.S. and send a message of intimidation sometime in the next month, around the time of the November election. The warning comes from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, and is published on its website, Beyond Parallel. The group says for some 60 years, Kim, his father, and grandfather have demonstrated a pattern of trying to incite tensions around the time America votes. Just this year alone, Kim Jong-un has fired off 15 missile tests, 2 nuclear bomb tests, making 5 overall. What could be next?
I think it could be a 6th nuclear test. It could be launching of their rocket to put a satellite in orbit, which demonstrates ballistic missile capability. Doing a major test would be a way of trying to intimidate the incoming president.
Whoever is president will face an increasingly dangerous North Korean dictator. CIA Director John Brennan, in an interview with CNN's Aaron Burnett, said North Korea is the biggest security risk for the next president. Brennan called Kim a megalomaniac, calculating and delusional.
He has invested so much of this effort in building a military and nuclear capability, and he thinks this is his ticket to greatness. I think it's his ticket to oblivion.
Well, the U.S. has officially suspended communication with Russia over Syria. Specifically, the country is suspending bilateral contacts and is withdrawing personnel that would have coordinated military cooperation and intelligence in the war-torn country had the ceasefire brokered by the U.S. and Russia been successful. Clearly, that ceasefire failed, and now both parties are at an impasse. Of course, no one is more affected than the people of Syria, torn apart by civil war and terrorism for the past 5 years.
There is new evidence tonight that the FBI and Justice Department agreed to destroy the computers belonging to senior Clinton aides in exchange for their cooperation in the now closed criminal investigation.
The American election system in jeopardy. Homeland Security now admitting that hackers targeted voter registration systems in 20 states.
2 of those, Arizona and Illinois, were named specifically. Officials are pointing to Russian-based hackers for the attempted infiltration, which did successfully access the personal information of 200,000 Illinois voters. And while it's not clear specifically what hackers downloaded or if they tried to make any changes, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have both used the term rigged elections, whether they meant rigged by cyber criminals or not. And it turns out that many voters are worried about problems this November. A new poll out Saturday from the Associated Press and Center for Public Affairs found that half of those who support Donald Trump favorably have little or no confidence in the integrity of the November election. Either way, this latest attempt by Russian hackers has cybersecurity experts, federal and state officials on edge.
It hasn't yet been a week since the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, or JASTA, became law, with the Congress overriding Obama's veto. But now we have the first lawsuit against Saudi Arabia under the new legislation. Stephanie Ross DeSimone was pregnant with Navy Commander Patrick Dunn's daughter when he was killed by American Airlines Flight 77, which was crashed into the Pentagon building on 9/11. Commander Dunn is one of 125 Pentagon employees who were killed on that fateful morning, and all 5 hijackers of that plane were Saudi nationals. So now DeSimone is suing Riyadh for wrongful death and intentional infliction of emotional distress through a district court in Washington, D.C.
In cities across the country, the decision to spy on its residents, on you and on me in everyday life, it's a decision in practice that's completely hidden from the public. Law enforcement acts with little or no oversight, no stamp of approval from city council, no public hearing process. But new legislation just launched in 11 cities is trying to make surveilling the public, well, more public. Together with groups like the American Civil Liberties Union, these cities want transparency of local police surveillance technology and community input, switching the power of privacy back to the people. I'm joined now by Chad Marlowe, Advocacy and Policy Counsel for the ACLU. Chad, thank you for coming on. Look, in the current state of things, how things work right now, we don't really know that we're being surveilled. What sort of technologies are cities using or police forces using to watch us?
Well, there's a large variety of them. They range everything from light aircraft with high-definition cameras on them that can literally watch an entire city at once, fake cell phone towers that can turn your cell phone into a device that can be used to track you, license plate readers that can track everywhere you travel in your car, and even surveillance light bulbs that they're going to screw into the light bulbs that keep all of our cities bright at night, that have kind of baked-in audio and video technology in the bulb itself. So it's pretty diverse, and it's spreading at a very disturbing rate.
It's incredible to even hear about all those different technologies. And according to your organization, according to the ACLU, when we've gotten info about local surveillance in cities like Baltimore, for instance, that we just learned about, the technology was not deployed evenly throughout the communities. What did you find?
That's right. So there's 2 fundamental problems with the surveillance technology. First is that it infringes all of our civil liberties, our right to privacy. It squelches our right to free speech by keeping an eye on all of us. But when we have peered beyond the veil of secrecy, what we've discovered is that those surveillance technologies are not trained on all of us equally. And in fact, they are disproportionately trained on communities of color, certain racial and ethnic and religious groups, on low-income communities, and on politically active groups, particularly those that don't support the status quo. And so we're not just looking at a widespread civil liberties concern, but also a civil rights concern.
In the span of 11 days last month, the bodies of 4 teenagers, including the skeletal remains of 2 victims missing for months, were found in yards and wooded areas of a suburban Long Island town. Suffolk County Police haven't announced any arrests in the slayings, which have the community on edge. Police Commissioner Timothy Sinney said Monday there is an indication of gang involvement in all 4 deaths, but he declined to elaborate. Nisa Mickens, Kayla Cuevas, Oscar Acosta, and Miguel Garcia Moran had attended the same high school in Brentwood, a working-class community about 45 miles east of New York City.
512 Robert. It's been a deadly year in Chicago, more than 500 murders so far, putting the city on track to hit its highest level of homicide since 1997.
They killed my baby out here in this alley.
The spike in violence has city officials and activists scrambling to find solutions. Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykin.
This is a war. This is a state of emergency. It is unacceptable. There is too much blood in the streets.
Boykin says the root cause is poverty. Just miles from Chicago's gleaming skyscrapers lie some of the city's most violent neighborhoods, marred by drugs, gangs, and easy access to guns.
I feel at risk just by coming outside. Just by me waking up and putting on my clothes and coming out my front door, I'm at risk.
But reducing the risk is proving difficult. Mistrust of police is rampant, and a high number of murder cases go unsolved. And Chicago police are themselves under federal investigation over use of lethal force.
And
parents are demanding answers after their kids were sent home with this white privilege survey. Seniors at a high school, at Oregon High School, asked to react to a series of racially charged statements. One example, because of my race or color, I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed.
On Saturday and Sunday night, protesters took to the streets outraged over the death of 18-year-old Carnell Snell Jr., known as CJ. In the past 6 days, police officers in Southern California have killed at least 4 men.
Along the border with Mexico, customs agents say the illegal immigration crisis is getting worse and preventing officers from doing their jobs.
This time, however, U.S. Border Patrol tells us the problem is actually worse, and this is a fairly unreported story, but the number of unaccompanied minors and family units apprehended so far are well on track to surpass the numbers from 2 years ago. And Texas is the epicenter. Down in the Rio Grande Valley, where an estimated 2/3 of those entering the country illegally pass through. For context, more than 54,000 unaccompanied minors have already been processed since August, compared to a little more than 66,000 in all of 2014. You can see where they're going. So why the increase?
You have so many people that are coming in and they're being released into the country, and the word's getting back to their home country. So they're mobilizing because they don't know what tomorrow will bring, but they know that today they can cross.